Shalom, shalom, everybody. Ariel Bar Tzadok here from the KosherTorah School, found online at www.koshertorah.com. Welcoming you to my weekly classes here. And tonight, as my appropriately non-politically correct mischievous self, I want to bring to you a very, very interesting topic that I'm going to bet you're not going to find any of my peers out there talking about. We're going to learn from the Ktavim Hadashim tonight a very interesting lesson on the topic of what's called Kefitzat HaDerekh, which means the shortening of the way. Some will call it astral travel, which connects us to the topics of an astral body. But we're going to first talk about concealments, and then we're going to talk about the Shedim, the Jinn, the demons. And we got to talk who and what and where and why and how, and put it all together. And just in case you want to ask, why on earth are we talking about such a weird topic? And I'm going to tell you why. All right, whenever I come to teach a class, as we know, in this present period of our corona crisis here, everybody is in a outside, let's just say, of our normalcy bias. Fine. Once things get back to normal, we'll go back to teaching a book, maybe my Walking in the Fire, Protection from Evil, or some similar type of a regular type of lesson. But during the time now, in which we're not just going in the norm, we're going with the flow of things. And for those of you who do not know, every day, at least now for 29 days, tomorrow will be 30, I'm teaching a little 20-minute daily lesson in the Sefer Yetzirah from Rabbi Hayim Vital. And the Sefer Yetzirah commentary of Hayim Vital is in this book called the Ktavim Hadashim. It came out about close to 30 years ago. And one of the other texts of Rabbi Hayim that's in here is called the Ma'amar Psiatav Shel Avraham Avinu. It's a teaching about a midrash about Abraham. But it's a very involved and technical teaching about a whole bunch of different stuff. And this is the kind of stuff, I delve into because that's what I do. And as I wanted to teach a class for tonight, I contemplated, all right, what's a good topic to teach? I always teach about meditation. I'm always giving what we call chizuk, emotional, psychological support to get us through, quote, the hard times, and all the rest of that yada, yada, yada stuff. It gets to be so chatty. In all due respect to many of my peers who are the chatty ones. They go and talk and they babble. They'll tell you the Mashiach is coming and the coronavirus is out there to punish us for our sins. It all depends on whose sins they are, right? Your Orthodox Jewish people will tell you because you're not religious, that's why God's punishing us. Evangelical Christians, some of them, not all, thank God, will say it's because you Jews rejected Jesus, and on it goes. You go, oh my goodness. All right? Free speech? Maybe we should put a price on it. Shut up half the people out there who, gosh, whatever. Don't get me started on that because that's not what we're going to talk about tonight. But as I was contemplating the circumstances, where we are at right now, what do we need to learn from all of this? And included the same thing that I've been including for the last 27 years. We really need to have a greater scope of experience with the greater reality of the world around us. This is, as you know, one of my pet peeves. I see so many of my peers teaching what's called today theoretical Kabbalah. They'll tell you, there are 10 Sefirot, and there's this, and then there's that, and it's supposed to be like this, it's supposed to be like that. And I know so many people who read all the books, and that's all they ever get to is the books. And I say, you're a master, the Baal of the books, but you don't know anything in the real world. You have to learn to close the books and open your heart, your mind to the experience to understand the books. earlier today, the Rebbetzin, the Rabbanit, and I were having this conversation. And as, God bless her, thank God for me, she wasn't born a man, but if she was, she would have been a big Rav, because she just loves to study. Everything that she'll always complain about, she has enough time. She sits, she learns with all this stuff. Great, Baruch Hashem, I'm honored. But I tell her that with all the book learning, the real learning, like I learned with Rebbe Meir Levy, my teacher, wasn't so much from what the book says, but like Rebbe Meir taught me, what they mean. And he taught me that in our tradition, the foundation of our faith, which is Torah Sheba'al Pei, orally. Tashama, come and listen, along with Tahazeh, come and see or experience. It's the living, the vibrant flow of things. We need to understand the greater reality of the world around us, because it is interacting with us, boom, 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 at every moment. And we are really oblivious to what's happening. And in order to help us get this, it's not enough. And I just say, okay, let me just teach you A, B, C, D. No. I want you to be able to take those A, B, C, Ds and form your own words and put them together in your own permutations. Teaching that in the Sefer Yetzirah stuff. But tonight, when I wanted to know what to teach tonight, I did what's called a traditional goral. A goral means where I try to open up my mind, my spirit, my soul, to experience something greater than what my intellect will guide me to. For those of you interested in what is a goral, you can go to my book, Walking in the Fire. I translate 2 goralot there, which no one else has ever touched. One of them is the goralot of Achitofel. And I explain what the biblical lottery, or goral, really is, and how it's a psychic or an intuitive tool, almost like a psychic Rorschach, to materialize an expression that you're either going to take or leave. In this case, I decided to take it. And I took the book, and I opened it up, and these are the pages, and I said, this is a very interesting teaching. And it's so applicable to what's going on today. I said, it's got to be taught. So, we're going to delve right into the Ktavim Hadashim, and I'm going to read to you exactly what he says, and then I'm going to explain it to you. Now, I'm going to explain to you ideas and things that, and I'm hopefully going to bring in examples, even from my darling little Sierra, who's lying down here at my feet. I learn a lot from my dogs. I really do, because they help me understand many things. But aside from that, I want you to understand the Ktavim Hadashim. I want you to understand the words. And then we're going to explain them. And I'm going to expose to you things that you may or may not like. You may or may not frighten you. But nevertheless, according to our teachings in the books, this is the way they are. And from our experiences, we know that this is the way it is. So, with no further ado, from the Ma'amar Psiotav Shel Avraham Avinu, I'm going to read to you from Ot, Ayin Gimel, Ayin Dalet, and Ayin Hey. And it writes like this. It's written like this. Haklal ha'oleh, the general rule. Ki b'kol ha'davarim ha'elyonim, all what we call upper things, supernal things. Shayach hitlabshut, b'ridatam la'olam ha'shefel hazeh. They by required, if you will, to be cloaked in some type of form for them to materialize in this physical world. Ad afilu shehashechina shayach bahitlabshut. Even the Shekhinah itself needs some form of a garment in order to materialize in this world. This is the secret, and it quotes here from Shemot Rabbah, where it says, Tzimtzem Shechinato bein badei ha'aron, that the Shekhinah itself was contracted into a form upon the ark. Let's explain a little bit about the kavod. For those of you who are not aware, in my lesson on Nadab and Abihu, which is available in written form and now on audio form, go to my YouTube channel for that. I explained how that presence of the glory of God, that kabod, was an actual, energetic, tangible presence in this dimensional plane. And that what happened with Nadav and Abihu was not that they were punished. It never says in the verses, Pasukim, that God was angry at them, but they got too close and they got electrocuted. They didn't understand the proper balance of things. And I drew lessons about that in that lesson. Go there. But understand that this kabod, this Shekhinah, what is it? Okay? The glory of God, Mazel Tov. When we read in the Torah that angels, they come and go. Fine. Ladder, remember, they go down, they go up. And all of these, in quote, higher dimensional beings. What are these dimensions? Oh, I know. They're the other worlds in Yetzirah and Biriah and higher worlds in Asiya, blah, 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 from books again. Oh, my goodness. I know what the books say, but what do they mean? Would you recognize a Yetziratic reality if it hit you in the head? Boom, 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 boom. A little Sierra over there, lover. Anyway, my point is this. Words and talk are very nice that they create a construct. But if you don't understand the essence within the construct, what do you got? So this is why what we call the upper light needs hitlabshut. And if you really want to understand the essence, you got to go beyond, or I should say in, the garment and peel away the shell, the vessel, to get to the essence within. This is a foundation of all Kabbalistic teachings. All right? As it is above, so it is below. Unlike in the Platonic Plato and his world, or Zoroaster in his world, where there's a duality and a conflict between what we call spirit and form. No, we don't believe that at all. The whole concept of Torah is Shema Yisrael, right? Hashem Elokeinu, Hashem Echad. Everything is in the state of singular unity. It's just that we don't experience it. Why? What are these higher worlds? Okay, if I want to describe them, I could say the Yitzharatic world is the emotional world, Bariatic is the intellectual world. Well, that's okay. That's all psychology stuff. But if I'm going to actually meet a spiritual entity, a ghost, a ruach, I'm a scientist from MIT. I want to take it to my lab and I want to analyze it. And I want to, okay, what are you made of? What exactly are you? If you're real, here you are. Okay, I got it. You're real. What is the diagnosis of your reality? You're not thinking, are you? Well, here we go. Modern science today understands that which we call existence or reality is far beyond the limitation of what we know as the 3 dimensions in space. You know the 3 dimensions in space: height, width, depth. They create the 6 directions, foundations, Sefi Yetzirah. And we always refer to the 4th dimension. And the 4th dimension we call time. But is it really? Modern science will show you, as the Kabbalah has always taught, that there are higher dimensions, forget time, in space itself. And there is a 4th dimension in space, even a 5th dimension, 6th, 7th dimensions in space. What is it like to have a 4th dimensional object? You go look on YouTube or Google this stuff and you'll see numerous different videos trying to explain like the hypercubes and all this other type of stuff that exists in 4-dimensional space. And the way that a 4th dimensional reality would exist or come into our 3-dimensional world, that is how we recognize what we call a spiritual being. They exist in what we refer to as 4th dimensional space. Space, space, space. Not time. Space. This is very important to understand, because what we understand as space isn't the whole of it. Modern science even understands that this reality that we know, they call it the world of matter, and they think what it's like 5% of all of creation. They recognize it's like 20% of something they call unknown or dark matter, and then dark energy around that. Is this fourth dimension? If you look at some of these videos that they have now about fourth dimensional space or four-dimensional geometry, it speaks about how you have, like a flat plane. Let's say everything here is just a flat plane, all right? You have width and depth, no height, whatever. You got two dimensions. If I'm in the third dimension, all right, here, let's use my hand as the example, all right? I'm in the third dimension. I want to go like this from point A to point B, right? I have to traverse all over. Now, isn't it a lot easier to just jump like that? Isn't that what we do when we fly? If you want to drive from New York to Los Angeles, even if you have a super speed stuff, it's a lot easier to just take a rocket ship and go boom around like that. Using the third dimension gets you from point A to point B a heck of a lot faster than just going in a straight line. Well, when you're in a fourth dimension, you're moving in a completely different reality as what we understand reality to be. Now, here's where things get interesting. For those of you who get into the UFO stuff, watch Ancient Aliens and the like, we do have tremendous numbers of close encounters with entities that are clearly coming from some other physical place. But where are they coming from? If you look at like Colonel Corso's book, The Day After Roswell, he's the real Pentagon colonel who was in charge of the reverse engineering stuff. And what he wrote in that book, you can rest assured, is 100% true. The discovered craft was not an extraterrestrial craft. It was a local craft. Where did it come from? What was its ways and means of movement? It moved in dimensional space beyond what we understand as the three dimensions. It went into what we in Kabbalah call the world of Yetzirah. But that world of Yetzirah now, take it out of its psychological perspective. Take it out of its mystical myth and bring it down into reality. And you'll recognize it is a fourth dimension in space. Cool and groovy. Okay. What does that have to do with me? Go look at all of these UFO experiences that happen all around the world. And you're going to see they're following the pattern of the intervention of a fourth dimensional being permeating three-dimensional space. It's kind of like, and I gave this example in my Sefer Yetzirah class. Think about a computer game. We all play computer games, all right? Call of Duty and all the rest of it. I don't even know half of the games that people play today. And you all know that we can become an avatar, a character in the game and play the game. Now, let's spice up the game a little bit and make that the characters in the game all have their own artificial intelligence. They really have their own senses of identity and the like. And now you from this world pop into the computer game. Even if you have one of these big, helmets that they wear that give you full, involvement in the game and whatever, fine. All right, you have full absorption. Nevertheless, you're still outside the game. You're not in it. Well, you can then get into the game and be subject to the rules of the game until you then get out of the game. Well, these fourth dimensional entities are doing the exact same thing. Our world to them is kind of like a computer game. Does that mean that we live in a holographic universe? Some people have seriously speculated about that, and their arguments not that easy to dismiss. Yeah, they got some points there. But this is why when we refer to this world being like an illusion, you're getting to realize the limitations of a three-dimensional reality. Now, our physical brains, as we know, are hardwired to this physical world. I think in the context of height, depth, width, time as being past, present, future. That's the way human beings think. But every one of us knows there's far more to our experience of reality than that. Every one of you have dreams, premonitions, feelings, sensing. Many of you have had close encounters. Many of you have contacted me in emails, even in phone calls, and told me about visitations, visions, dreams, weird stuff happening. It's recorded throughout all human history, in every culture, at every time, especially now. You see, this is something very profound. A prediction, if you will, from the Zohar. It said there in the Zohar, forgive me, I can't quote the page right off the top of my head, that from the year 5600 in the Hebrew calendar, the gates of wisdom would be opened up in preparation for the Messianic era. We've talked about this a number of times. The ballpark is around the year 1840. We associate the, in quote, gates of wisdom from below with the development and the birth of modern technology, the complete transformation of our reality of the world. And look at where we have come. From 1840, 1940, jump ahead to 2040. 200 years. Not a lot of time in the greater scope of things. 200 years ago, if you started talking about parallel realities, higher dimensions, people would say, oh, it's all metaphysical, that's all philosophy, it's all the occult, it's all a bunch of nonsense, dismissed. Today, there's not a single scientist out there who's not stroking his or her beard, saying, you know something, there's something out there. And they know it. What they know and won't divulge in their black projects, not for you and I to know. But they know the secret of this, what we call cloaking. Now, because we experience this on a day-to-day basis, because there's so much influence from that dimension on us, we need to pay attention. How do I do that? What am I supposed to do? Okay, I'm going to skip ahead in Reb Hayim here and then go back. He says, Ha'adam, this is old Ayin Hey, Ha'adam hu sulam shel kol ha'olamot. The human being is like a ladder which binds all the different worlds as is known, right? With the body being in this physical world. That which we call the animal soul of the Yetzer Hara is in that domain corresponding to what we call the Shedim. Don't think of Shedim as demons in a Christian sense, that they're fallen angels, minions of hell. They're different. These are the ones that dwell in the air. That's their home. The thinking soul corresponds to the Ofanim, the Ruach soul to the Malachim, and the Neshama to the throne, and the Neshama of the Neshama from the Shekhinah. Asher al mi sheyesh lo b'chinat zeh. Okay, well, I'll get to that later. So, as we know, we have the different levels of soul. We are like, he uses the metaphor, a ladder. Remember I said to you earlier how our brains are hardwired for this three-dimensional reality. But each and every one of us has experienced things beyond this reality. Right now, at this very moment, you, I, we are in a fourth and even a fifth dimensional reality, living there, interacting there, moving and grooving and doing whatever they do in a fourth and fifth dimension, which my three-dimensional brain can't figure out. But I'm there, you're there, we're there right now. We're connected. The problem is we don't experience it. Or let me rephrase, we don't realize it. We do experience it. The fourth dimensional reality of our consciousness, our soul, our mind, comes into us, but it's blocked by that hitlabshut, that concealment. And only through the meditative techniques and processes that we learn, as we call going up the ladder, do we become sensitive to and aware of those higher realities. The first of the levels is the realm of what we can call those entities that exist in this four-dimensional reality closest to our earth, who are indigenous to our earth, because our earth exists in a fourth dimension and even a fifth. But we only are aware of the three dimensions. Like we said, there's matter, dark matter. I don't know if that dark matter is higher dimensional in that respect or not. Let the scientists, figure out that. I can only talk to you from the context of Torah. But now, when we ascend, and meaning expanding mind, expanding consciousness, we begin to have experiences, awarenesses, because physically, when we're meditating, the physical body is staying right here, and it's the mind is expanding, because we're leaving the focus of attention in this world and trying to focus into those other realms. How are you doing that? Go read my book, Walking in the Fire. Take one of my meditation courses. I can't explain 40 hours of teachings in 4 minutes. All right, you got to do this stuff. It's a process. But when you do the process, you become sensitive to, you become aware of the other realities around you. When Professor Rick Strassman was working with the DMT stuff, and he was giving people the DMT, and they were experiencing, for however short it was, many of them reported seeing other entities all around them. Those are the ones that are in a fourth dimension, which are right here in this room right now and around you right now. Is there a difference between your space and this space in a fourth dimension? I don't know. But I will tell you that we can access it. And when we do, we will find what an old teaching of the Midrash states. There's a Midrash that states to every blade of grass, there's a malach, an angel, which stands over it, striking and causing it to grow. Now, some will interpret this, I don't know, naturally or symbolically. There is an angel or a life force energy. All of that is true. But at the same time, in this higher dimensional plane, there are beings and entities and civilizations and cities and culture and history very different from ours. And in those domains on this earth reside different types of beings, one of whom we refer to as Shedim. In the Islamic tradition, they're called the Jinn. And of course, Christians bundle this all together, and they say it's all evil and demonic and bad. And, they say the same thing about Jews, and everybody else doesn't agree with them, so whatever. But for those who've actually had experience with these races, are some of them malevolent and bad? Well, yeah. So are human beings. But it's a very profound teaching and interpretation from the Bible. It's actually elaborated in extra biblical teachings and even taught about in the Talmud itself. That when King Solomon was directed by God to build the Holy Temple in Jerusalem, there were places which no human being was allowed to know existed. So the tradition tells us that King Solomon sent to Ashmodai, the king of the Shedim, to give him Shedim workers who would actually materialize in this physical world and build an entire substructure under the Temple Mount, which no human being was allowed to know. Yeah, that's what the Talmud says. This is like from the Testament to Solomon stuff, this old stuff. Is this literal? It was understood to be literal. So you have these entities, these beings who go from one dimension and to the next. What is their function? What is their purpose? Why are they there? Go ask God. God created these beings, not me. But the one that actually elaborates the most on these entities, we call Shedim, is in the Quranic, the Arabic tradition, where they're called Jinn. Genies. Remember Barbara Eden, I Dream a Genie? Anyway, the Jinn, curiously, very much similar to what's discussed in the Zohar. It says that you have those that are actually good and those that are bad. just like human beings. Even in the Christian tradition, you'll forgive me, I can't quote the Christian Bible on this, but I know it's there, where it says that the demons don't lie or blaspheme the name of God. Right? Not they're all stinking, rotten liars out to get your soul to condemn to hell. You'd think so, but all of that evil out there that's out to manipulate our minds, you'd be surprised how much of that is inner psychology or the negativity of our own. But these other entities in a fourth dimensional higher reality, how do they look at us? We can't even see them. What do they think of us? Okay, I'll give you an example that maybe you can understand. For those of you who know, I am a dog lover. I've had dogs for many, many years. They're my canine family. Right now at my feet, my little Sierra is here. And Sierra, my shepherd, if I wanted to call her and bring her onto camera right now, you'd see she'd be very excited. She clearly has emotions. She clearly responds to my expression of emotion to her. She can get excited. I can comfort her. Right? We understand these emotions. Right? We're human beings. Well, these animals have equal types of emotions like we do. I can communicate with her verbally. I can say sit, stand, go out, come back. And she understands certain basic stuff. But right now, she's at my side. And here we are talking about these topics. Do you really think she understands what we're talking about? I don't think so. If I wanted to discuss with Sierra the Kitvei Ha'ari, or the differences of opinion in halacha between the Shach and the Taz, or differences of philosophical constructs in the concepts of religion between Judaism, Christianity, and Islam, I think she'd be sitting there going, wagging her tail and wanting a treat. Because her consciousness is of a dog. Now, in our Kabbalistic traditions and belief of reincarnation, we do believe that human souls can incarnate in animal forms. So, for argument's sake, let's say that she has a human soul. Fine. That means at the higher level of her being, outside of her canine consciousness, she has a human soul that can perceive things at that level. But right now, at her canine consciousness, well, she's interested in getting those treats and being patted on the head and going out and potty in the backyard. Well, that's where she's at, even though she has a higher potential. Maybe. Conceptually. When you go into these higher realms and you interact with these entities, they too, like us, have emotions. They too, like us, have intellect. But unlike us, their emotions and their intellect is in that fourth dimensional reality, which is in a complete construct different from anything that we can possibly relate to in our three-dimensional construct. They are as above us as we are above the canine. Now you can say, well, the inner self and the higher self, yeah. We got that, all right? Rav Hayim says here, Sulam. But understand the reality here. This other dimension is real. We can channel there astrally. But there's other ways to access it as well. Now I'm going to go back to Ot Ayin Dalet and read to you. Ubezeh amarnu b'mvan inyan Kefitzat HaDerekh mahi. And with this understanding of this nature of the cloaking, let us discuss the topic called shortening of the way. Kefitzat HaDerekh. How you get from point A to point B, Matrix style. Now, for those of you who might be fans of the famous Dune series by Frank Herbert, you might recognize the term Kefitzat HaDerekh as being the foundation of his concept of Kefitzat HaDerekh. The Paul Atreides character who becomes their messiah is called Kefitzat HaDerekh in the novel series. And, yeah, Frank Herbert took that from our Kabbalah. Go check out his glossary. It's there. Let's talk about this Kefitzat HaDerekh. He writes, the garment, the body of a human being comes from this physical world. Because of this physical world. We're physical in the three-dimensional dimensional plane of this world, and that's what our physical bodies are. Therefore, you can't skip or shorten the way in any way. The physical body doesn't go from point A to point B like that. Omnam, hashedim shochanim ba'avir, the shedim, those we talked about, who dwell in the air, they have the power to jump in the air. But they're not really like angels. And he says the angels are on a higher level. And of course, the Shekhinah is on a higher level than that. Let's talk about these Shedim in the air. I've shared about this many a time. You want to know what a soul looks like? You want to know what a real entity looks like? The orbs, the balls of light. You'll notice that those people who actually film these things, you don't see them coming in from the side and then zooming back up all the time. No, they just come out of nowhere and go back to nowhere. In and out. Like a fourth dimensional being that comes into the third dimension and then goes back out. Like you going into the computer game and going back out. Bingo. Salkadatach. We recognize them now. That dimensional reality is accessible to us. Now, how do you gain access to it? In most cultures around the world, everyone who has ever had access knows that there are certain ways to do it. There are doorways, passages. For those of you who might remember the old television program from way back when called Twin Peaks. In the second series, they described in this film, especially in the remake, the third season that did like just recently, a couple of years ago, about this parallel world, which they called the Dark Lodge. David Lynch, real weirdo guy, and he portrayed this in his television program. And the way that he portrayed it, at least in the third series, which is most recent, was very interesting because it's rather an accurate portrayal. It is known to the Muslims in Jerusalem that there are certain places on Har HaZitim that you could walk to. You look at there's like nothing there, but it's a doorway that you walk in and it will take you to another place. In our Torah tradition, we know that in the cave of Hebron, there is a doorway that you walk in and it'll take you to inner earth. It is known out here in the Tennessee woods, out here in the Smoky Mountains, about the Nunehe, the Wee people. And they exist, and there are places that you can go through a doorway and gain access to a different world. Oh, Rabbi, you're going to tell me this is all myth, this is all nonsense. Well, maybe yes, maybe no. You decide for yourself what you want to believe. All I will tell you is that it's part of our Torah tradition. So what Rabbi Hayim here is saying is that because we have parts of ourselves that calibrate to all these different planes, we have access to them as well. So I'm going to skip the part where he talks about sons of God versus the servants of God. And he states here, where is it here? Okay, yeah. Yesh mi she'oseh Kefitzat HaDerekh al yidei shedim. There are those who can do the shortening of the way, it says here, by the hands of demons, meaning that we go through that dimensional plane. Like we find amongst the earlier generations of the rabbis, such as Rabbi Eliezer of Gemizah, Rabbi Eliezer of Worms. I teach all of his stuff. Go check out the KosherTorah courses. He would make use of what's called the air of the Shedim, which the Mikubalim would call Shemusha the Havle Zutra. And it quotes here the part of the ceremony of Ramach. And it says here that he would then do a shortening of the way, through their dimension, as needed. Like we have the example, this Kefitzat HaDerekh from his land. He was living in northern Europe. It says here the tradition that he went to Spain to teach Ramban Nachmani the secrets of the original and authentic Torah. That's our tradition. So we read stories of the Baal Shem Tov doing this. Rabbi Eliezer of Worms, who is actually the historical author of the Raziel HaMalach that we have today. People who knew how to go from point A to point B. Many of you might be aware of the movies The Matrix, wherein which, because it's a computer, a synthesized computer program, I think it was, what was it, the second film I think it was, you had the guy who was the key maker, and you could go to a door, and you're in a building, and you open up the other side of the door, and you're 500 miles away. You open up the second door, you're 1,000 miles the other direction. Kefitzat HaDerekh kind of works like that. You see, when you find the proper sound oscillations that shift the three-dimensional reality to the fourth-dimensional reality, you open a door. That's why this is called Shemusha, the Havle Zutra. That's why this is called usage of that passageway. This is not astral travel. Astral travel, like Rabbi Hayim says, we have a ladder within us. Through consciousness, we can go into all the different realms and worlds. And of course, in meditation and ascent and the Merkabah practices, that's what we do. But this is different. This is Kabbalah Ma'asit, as we call it. No, be very careful to understand. No one is invoking demons. No one is talking to demons. No one's conjuring demons or any of this other kind of stuff. All right? Let me tell you something about Shedim for real. They live their own lives. They got their own shtick. They got their own families. Yeah, they actually marry. They have their own kids. They have their own headaches. I wonder if they have their own viruses. Don't think that there's something to be terrified of. Trust me, they don't want that much to do with us. Remember, in their eyes, like I look at my darling Sierra, I'm kind of a little bit more intelligent than her, maybe. They're different from us in that way too. They look at us as lesser creatures. And most of us are. Think about it. When these orbs want to communicate with us, whether they be earth spirits, nature spirits, or any of these kinds, forget about the good or bad kinds, just kinds. How do they communicate? As we know, the powers of telepathy, ESP, it is a projection of thought into the mind. But as the Bible makes very clear, that language is always in symbolic, imagery, and archetype. It's not physical words. They speak a different language. They speak a fourth-dimensional language that our three-dimensional minds have a really hard time to understand. So, process of meditation, Merkabah, of course, is to try to ascend because we have what it takes to ascend, as Rabbi Hayim teaches us here. So, this is the experience, but that's not what Kefitzat HaDerekh is. Sometimes you can interact with the entities of that level. Those human beings who can actually learn to speak spiritualese, angelese, as I've called it, understanding the psychic telepathic way, not in fantasy and not in mythology, but in reality. And how do you tell the difference? You can pretty much tell the difference. When somebody is faking something, it's all too, I don't know if I want to say elaborate or something like that, but there's just a sense to it, a flavor to it. It doesn't taste right. You'll experience it when you know it. You will see that all of us have this ways and means of communication with the higher realms through this sulam, this ladder of our consciousness, like Rabbi Hayim says. It's the source of creativity. It is that which inspires every artist and every musician, and for that matter, every scientist and every philosopher and every technician. All insight and innovation is coming into us from these higher dimensional planes, bringing us ever closer to their reality. maybe, somehow some science program in any black ops project for real, maybe, actually has developed a stargate, and they can go through this dimensional plane to point A to point B. Maybe. I mean, it's not like the black ops projects call me and ask me my opinion, so I don't know. And of course there are black ops projects. Why would you even doubt that? It's not our business. Acknowledge it. Just accept it and let it be what it is. But they know, that we know, that there are certain ways and means of sound oscillations, chants, meditations, which vibrate the energetic planes, which create the veil, the doors that open us up and can bring us what's called here the domain of the Shedim. That's called the air. All right? It's called the avir. Now, these orbs of light that we refer to as these entities, they exist in quote, the avir, the air. In old language, it is said that our physical bodies are made up of the four elements, which is, of course, fire, air, water, earth, corresponding to the physical solid, the solid, liquid, gaseous, and energetic states. We all know that. These entities are only gaseous and energetic, meaning they have a soul, and their body is of a completely different structure and form. Someone's asking, is this how the Baal Shem Tov did it? You betcha. That's exactly what he did. He opened up the door because he knew how. So, these entities are all around us. They're not in three-dimensional space that we have to concern ourselves. They are in their own dimensional space. And as such, they exist in their world. We exist in ours. Just like Sierra is in her world and I'm in mine. Now, we're both three-dimensional beings sharing the same space. But yet my consciousness enables me to use my space in different ways than she can. So therefore, the relationship between her and I, the emotional bond is there, the intellectual connection to a point is there, but as a human being, I have more intelligence. So we say, well, these entities kind of like that. Now, we're not going to get into the realm of the discussion of good versus evil, because in all due respect, like I said, tradition teaches us from the Zohar and the Islamic traditions, of course, you have jinn who are really God-fearing, observant, God-fearing entities. So you got good guys out there. Of course, you got bad ones too. We got bad human beings. And I think a good jinn has a lot more to worry about from a bad human being than a bad human being. Than a good human being has to be afraid of a jinn, a bad jinn. Bad jinns, they can do bad stuff. Bad human beings do even worse stuff. That's good and evil. We don't have to get into that. But understand this reality which is around us. We penetrate it meditatively. That is what we call astral projection. Through what we call the body. Here we refer to this as he refers to this here as the nefesh behemit. All right? We refer to this as the halukah derabanan, or the astral body. It corresponds to that domain. So when individuals project their minds, they can project themselves into an astral energetic form of what we call avir, air, which then can take different forms as its fourth dimensional reality materializes in the third dimension. That's the foundation of what we call today shape-shifting. It can take on any form whatsoever. Famously, of course, Eliyahu Hanavi. It is said that he even materialized once as a bear. So individuals out there who see strange things in the night, Bigfoot, or all these other stuff, maybe they're fourth dimensional entities that penetrate into our third dimensional. We see them in strange ways, like ghosts. They're there, but they're not there. They come in, they go out. They're following the laws and the rules of their dimensional plane, which is natural for them, but unknown yet for us. So we consider it to be supernatural, metaphysical. But it is as real This is our world for us. Through the oscillation of sound technique, this is what the high priest did when of course, he used the Urim and the Tumim. He would open up that vortex, which brought the energy of the Kabod, the Shekhinah, upon the Ark of the Covenant. It created the fourth dimensional reality, which enlivened the cherubim on the ark, making them alive. And as such, he could see into this other dimension. We have an example of this in the Gemara, where in which Rabbi Ishmael, who was called the high priest, must have been in a meditative state or not, because he says that he went into such a state and he saw a Katriel Ka in the Holy of Holies. And if you know, in the time period, there was nothing there. There was no ark. There was no nothing. So he apparently wasn't in the actual physical temple, but maybe an alternate one or a meditated one. But he was able to penetrate the veil and he could see within. We don't have that many examples in Talmudic times of the individual rabbis going through the door, other than, of course, the very famous four who went into Pardes: Ben Azai, Ben Zoma, Rabbi Acher, Elisha ben Abuya, and, of course, Rabbi Akiva. They actually went somewhere. It wasn't just meditation. So this method of astral travel, one thing. Actual physical travel, where in which the physical human body penetrates through the veil. Like again, what David Lynch in Twin Peaks called the Dark Lodge, what others will call it in all the different names. You're going into a different dimension, a different realm. The words from Rod Serling's Twilight Zone pop up into my head here. But this is a real place. And the likes of Rabbi Eliezer of Worms, and later Rabbi the Baal Shem Tov, and even the famous Baba Sali, were aware of this spiritual psychic technology and were able to use it to transit physically from point A to point B. How this is done, Rabbi Hayim actually does continue to explain it in the continuation of this section here. But I won't teach that publicly. I'll teach that privately to my individual students who are actually ready for that. Too much knowledge in the public domain, I'm not comfortable with. All right? People got to be ready for certain stuff. But you should know that this is real because you're experiencing it right now. Those influences from outside this dimension, outside this dimension, are coming into you right now. They speak into your head. They speak into your world. They talk to you in your dreams. When the physical body dies, that which we call our soul, of course, goes back into that dimensional plane. And that's why when we go into the, in quote, air, the encapsulated form through that dimensional plane, you meet all the other entities that are there, including many of the souls of our dearly departed, at the nephesh and only the nephesh level. Remember the secret of the witch from Endor with bringing up the soul of the prophet Samuel? The prophet Samuel is like on a much higher level. But this is his nephesh, his what we call Havle de Grama, which was left at this residual level. So because there is a part of us at that level, we connect to its consciousness. And through the vibration of the sound and tonal technologies, we can pass through a vehicle which takes us through this dimensional plane, some will say instantaneously, to point A to point B, traveling at the speed of thought, quantum entanglement, fourth dimensional reality. Let the scientists argue how it's meant to be. But you and I should know that this is what our Torah teaches us. You can accept it, you can reject it, you can embrace it or not. But I will tell you this, when you go to sleep tonight and you have a dream, and your dream is vivid, and your dream is lucid, and you have an experience like the old Chinese philosopher Chuang-Tzu, who says, fell asleep, once dreamed that he was a butterfly. But that dream was so vivid, so real, that when he woke up, he questioned, am I really a man who dreamed that I was a butterfly? Or perhaps I'm really a butterfly right now dreaming that I'm a man. You think this world around us is so real, don't you? You think this world around us is so concrete, don't you? Do you even have a clue as to how much we are influenced by higher invisible forces from a fourth dimension, which can come in to our minds and our consciousness through a back door? This is what the book of Daniel teaches, that this group, this species of entities, which are called Irin, watchers, they direct human affairs. If there is this coronavirus going around the world right now, it didn't come from nowhere. It's not going to go away to nowhere. It is what it is, guided, part of a greater whole, a greater wisdom, greater consciousness. Why is it here? What's it all about? I did a class on that a few weeks back. You go listen to that. But ask yourselves right now, where do you fit into these things? That's what you need to understand. Some of us are young. Some of us are old. Those of us who are older, a little wiser, I hope, in life, we've asked the question, why am I here? What's it all about? What am I supposed to be doing? Am I really in the right place? Well, ask yourself that. Calibrate that energy. Now, the reason why I do not elaborate on specific details, as I know many of you might want, is because I also know that many of you are not ready. For example, many of you might be impressed with the big bang bang sound of a gun. But if you treat a gun as a toy and you want to play with it, someone is going to get hurt. God forbid dead. So you don't put a gun in the hand of someone untrained and unprepared. You don't put this knowledge in practice into the hands of those who are untrained and unprepared. You want to train? By all means. You want to prepare? By all means. Those in the Tibetan Buddhist tradition, they understand this. Our Kabbalistic tradition understands it. I know the Sufi tradition understands this. I think that certain Native American traditions understand this. These are the people who I know are aware of the doorways, the vortices. These things are real. And if you talk to people in your own cultures, in your own traditions, specifically folk people who know the local lay of the land, they'll tell you stories. They'll tell you things. And you can go, ha ha, I don't listen, until you experience it for yourself. And then, shh. Just like you're laughing at the other person, not believing them, when you experience it, people will laugh and not listen to you. Sometimes silence is golden, as they say. I've taught you a lot tonight. I hope you're going to be able to sleep tight with this and not freak out, because we're never alone. Everybody's complaining now about the loss of our privacy. Let me tell you the truth. You've never had any privacy. These other entities, they can see through your thoughts, your feelings. What we call what do they call that? Carillion aura type of thing, your auric energy. They could read that and therefore know every thought that you think, every feeling you have, just like reading a page on the internet or reading a newspaper. That's how transparent we really are in these higher dimensions. That's why we call it the Alma, the Kushta, the world of truth, because we can't hide the inner realities. In the third dimension we can, but not in the fourth and fifth. Think about that. Where we're going and what we're doing, well, I guess we'll find out. But all right, I hope I gave you enough to chew on tonight. Think about. Again, if you have the Map Siyatav Shel Avraham Avinu, this is letters Old Ayin Gimel, Ayin Dalet, and Ayin Hey that I read to you. I don't know, the book, I think, might be available in translation. Somebody might have it. I haven't checked. I've seen the titles out there, but I haven't checked. But if it's out there, you go read, see for yourself. And then what you choose to do with it, entirely up to you. You want to learn meditation? You want to learn where to start, and what to do, and how to do it? Check out the courses I have, KosherTorah.com. Plenty of them at all different levels. Doesn't matter who you are, what you are, where you are. None of that matters. It just matters you're a human being. You have a connection. You can do this if you so choose. So again, In the wise words of the great sage Hillel, Zil, Gamar, go, do it. Ariel Bar Tzadok here, Kosher Torah School, KosherTorah.com. On behalf of the Rabbanit, Sierra, Shalom Aleichem. I'll see you all next time. Kol Tov. Hey, stay safe, stay healthy. God bless you all. Prosperity and well-being. See you all soon.